My name is Yenny, I'm 26 and I believe marriage is the best way to raise children. I am single, unmarried and childless, but I was raised with two parents. I have a mother and a father, and they're still married today. I think the way that society views marriage now has definitely shifted, and whereas before it was more a necessity and a benefit to survival in life, it's now become much more of a personal, value-based establishment. And so I understand when people say they don't really view marriage as a necessity. However, when it comes to children, I think in a family unit is still going to be the most ideal situation. I can definitely see situations, and I've witnessed situations where it might be best to make that decision to raise a child outside of their family or to not have a traditional family unit. Even though I believe that marriage would still be the best ideal scenario, I think I could be convinced otherwise. I'm excited to meet whoever I'm going to be speaking to. I think I can see where they might challenge me quite a bit, so I think it'll be an interesting conversation.
So I go by the name Mr. Dirty. I am 36 years old, and I don't think it's absolutely essential for there to be a marriage in order for you to raise successful children. I think there's loads of different dynamics to having successful children, having successful people. I think there's loads of different examples in the world of successful people who didn't necessarily come from the best of education or married households, should I say. So yeah, that's my stance on it. So myself, I was raised in a single parent household. I was raised by two women, to be honest with you. I was raised by my mother and my auntie at different times. And looking at that family dynamic and looking at my family dynamic, we've had successful people in my family. One of my brothers has played for England for a very long time in the 90s as a cricketer. Myself, I'm doing pretty well, I'd like to say, in regards to my career, in regards to music. And I didn't necessarily have a father figure in the house to get there. Yes, it was hard, and there is lessons that I wish that I did have a lot earlier. But in regards to it being absolutely essential, in regards to my world and the things that I've seen and the people that are around me, I don't necessarily think it is. People are entitled to their opinions. I'll say that people are entitled to their opinions, but to people who believe that marriage is essential to having successful children, my question would be, do you know any examples of people who haven't been raised by people who are married that are successful today? And if the answer is yes in some capacity, again, the question goes back to, is it totally essential? Yes, the journey may be harder in some capacity, but totally essential. If that's the key point of the question, then we're looking at no again, then really and truly. I've never had a problem with having conversations with people who don't agree with me. I think having different perspectives tends to educate me a lot of the time. Because again, when you're thinking from your own perspective, a lot of the times you don't hear outside perspectives. You kind of have a one-track mind in regards to something. So hearing challenging perspectives is always educational for me at times, to be honest with you. So I never have a problem with that.
Hi.
How you doing? You all right?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good.
I'm Yenny.
Mr. Dirty, but Mikkel for today.
Mr. Dirty.
Yeah, that's the
Is
name.
that your stage name, your alias?
Stage name, yeah.
Oh,
It is.
I hope it's just a name and not a description.
It depends.
Oh.
It depends on what we're talking about in life.
Okay, well, I guess today we're talking about marriage and children. So shall I start?
Go for it, please.
I guess my stance in a nutshell is I think marriage in the traditional sense is the best and most ideal way to raise children in an ideal world, which I feel like is a big caveat at the end, but I'm just going to put that out there and see what you think.
You think it's the most ideal way to do it, you say?
In an ideal world.
Okay. What is it about marriage that makes you believe it's probably the most ideal way to make it work?
Because I think if we're talking about raising a successful child, that question in itself makes a lot of assumptions. So if we're talking about a successful child is someone who can grow up to be a functioning, non-criminal member of society, then you don't need marriage for that. You need a book, probably a couple of finance lessons, and we're good to go. But if we're talking about relationships and how people interact with the world, I think a mum and a dad, having the child be able to observe their dynamics and not just the good bits, but their flaws, their characters, their frictions, their problem-solving skills in a relational context is really important for the child's emotional development, I would say.
I agree with you in regards to it probably is an ideal way to do things. Do I think it's essential or compulsory in regards to having a successful child? I don't think so. I do think it's extremely important for children to have healthy parents. Ideally, if they're together and in the same household and able to raise that child together, yes, I don't think it necessarily has to mean they have to be wedded in order to raise this child in the best capacity, to be honest with you. I've seen a good few of my friends who have become major successes who've never had a dad in the house.
Yeah.
Some of them never had a mum in the house. The journey was a little bit different. Not necessarily, I've seen people who have got both parents in the house and they ain't shit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Ain't nothing really going on. Most people believe or aim to have children with the person they intend to stay with. And when that doesn't happen, to be honest with you, co-parenting is the next solution, which probably isn't the most ideal what people probably wanted. So it is somewhat making the best of a bad situation when we really look at it. If we're just being plain about it, the best in bad situations make great things sometimes though, man. So this whole thing in regards to, oh yes, in order to have successful children or the best children in society, it's best for these two people to be married in order to... I've seen situations, and I've been in a situation myself where I've been in a relationship with somebody, had a child, and tried to stay within that relationship in order to bring up the best version or what we thought was the best version of this child. Not realizing, being lost in our own emotions sometimes, you're not even paying attention to what's going on with your child because you're still here sometimes.
Yeah.
And breaking up and going our separate ways has allowed us to be better people for each other, have a better line of respect for each other, and raise a child in a better dynamic than when we was together.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, I can understand why people have this ideology that it's somewhat compulsory for everyone to be married to raise successful children. But I've seen it so many times over where it hasn't been the case. Do you know what I mean? I'm a person who wasn't raised by a married couple. I'm able to articulate myself and have conversations. I finished school. I haven't been to prison. I've got my children and they're healthy and all of these kind of things. I'm not the greatest success in the world, but my mum and my auntie did that without any education from my dad. Unfortunately, I had to experience life myself in order to get certain lessons. And it's unfortunate because you want some of this guidance from a parent, a mum or a dad or whichever, but again, like I said, I think I've seen it so many times, it doesn't make me feel like it's essential.
I would agree with you. And being raised in a two-parent household myself with parents that are married, there are times that I have thought, I don't know if this was the best situation, because I think there are definitely toxic marriages. And if we're talking about a toxic marriage versus not living in a two-parent home, then obviously there's a discussion to be had. Like, there's no point in having a marriage that is not ideal or that is going to that's not going to foster healthy behaviors. And as I said, the child is learning from those people, regardless of who they are and where they are. I'll share a bit about myself as well. When I was growing up, I think I grew up so sheltered, protected, loved, and blissfully unaware
Yeah.
to life.
Yeah.
And to be honest, whenever I have children, I think I would raise my children that way.
Yeah.
Because there was a time from about 18 maybe to around 21
Yeah.
where I started to now become aware of reality.
You were shielded from, yeah.
Yeah. And for a minute, I will say, I was quite angry and upset because I felt like I'd been kept out of the loop, or like a secret had been kept from me.
Yeah.
And I remember asking one of my parents, and I said, well, like, why didn't I ever know any of this? Mm-hmm. And their priority was, like, we have a job, and if anything, like, you as a child, you're on loan to us. And our job is to raise you, to give you what you need, and then let you go and be independent. And if I had learned about the things that I learned about as a child, those would have had so much of a bigger impact on me than being able to learn it at the stage where I did learn it. And I was able to compute and decide and agree or disagree because I'd been raised to have that that free thinking.
It's always going to be contrasting opinions when you're dealing with people who are from different age groups, so to speak. I'm someone who is a bit older, so I'm experienced in regards to certain things, in regards to parenting, looking at marriages and these things.
I don't think the fact that I don't have children or I'm not married disqualifies me, because at the end of the day, I am a child who was raised in a household. So I have those experiences to look on, and I'm an adult now. So I'm able to look on them retrospectively and see what I think would have been better or would have been best or worse off for myself.
So by learning those things later on in life, do you feel that it's been more conducive to you learning it later, or it would have been better for you to have learned it at earlier stages in your world?
I think retrospectively, it was better that I learned it later. When I first found out, I was like upset. And it's not like it was this big secret that just came out one day. It was gradual. It's gradual unraveling of reality. And I was like, I don't know if this is right. Like, why didn't I know? And I even said that if I was in the situation that my parents were in and I brought that to them, would they be happy with me?
Yeah.
And they wouldn't be. And they said it's because that they've gone through these things that they're able to say now, like, if I brought that to them, the English is not English.
I get where you're going though.
Yeah, like, because of their experiences, essentially, they know better now.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing we forget about parents as well, because everyone says, oh, parents mess up their kids. You know, it's all the trauma happens when they're a child. It's because this mum did that, or this dad did that, or this mum wasn't here, or this dad was doing whatever. But we forget that most people become parents when you're around 20 to 30.
Yeah.
It's young. People are developing, people are learning. And so while marriage is, I might go as far to say marriage is never perfect in the way that we are now. I still think there's value to be learned from those interactions, because it permeates to all your interactions with people. And you'll see whether you've grown up in a toxic household or a healthy household, those interactions and understanding negotiation and empathy and exposure of your own character flaws, those are modeled for you. My perspective will likely evolve when I do eventually get married and have children. But that will definitely be the route I will be pursuing to get there.
So those are very, very, like I was saying beforehand, I think they're very, very important components to have in regards to raising a child. Making sure that they see love and all of these kind of things, so they take it into their world. But my whole thing is this: as a parent myself, I look at certain things and I think, and I say to myself, with what I've been through as an adult at my age, and I look at some of the things through that I went through at my son's age. He's a teenager now. My not sole goal, but one of my major goals is to protect him from things that I'm able to protect him from.
Yeah.
There's things that I'm never going to be able to protect him from. He's going to have his tests, he's going to have his challenges, he may have his little fights in life, and they don't even have to be physical altercations, but fights with the world in itself. My job as a dad is to educate him as much as I can where I can't protect him. Do you understand what I mean? So my energy has always been not just expose him to everything from the minute he's able to walk and talk himself, but gradually always be honest with my child. At stages where he's able to compute and understand these things and it's not detrimental to his world,
Yeah.
always be honest. There was stages when he was little that things had been happening to me that obviously I can't take to my child at such an early age. But as he's got older and he's hit certain ages, I've taken him back to certain stages of, oh, do you remember when I was going through such and such, or such and such happened? This is what was going on. Now that you're walking about by yourself and going into the shops by yourself and going into the streets by yourself and meeting your friends and going to these things by yourself, I need you to be aware that these things are actually capable of happening.
Yeah.
Nobody else is going to educate my son the way that I'm going to educate him. You know what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
Myself and experience itself. His mum can't teach him. His uncles can't teach him. His brothers can't teach him. Nobody can. By the way I can. So my whole thing has been protection and education as a tool as prevention. Do you understand what I mean? So
Okay.
again, and it's within reason, obviously. As a 15-year-old boy, now my son's only going on 16. There's certain things that he's facing, certain challenges he's facing by himself. Regardless if I was in the household or not in the household, married to his mum or not with his mum, I wouldn't have been able to protect him from, because I can't be there all the time. Can I do the best that I can from here? Yes. And I do the best that I can from here? Always will. It doesn't stop. And this is the thing, like I said, in regards to marriages and stuff, it doesn't stop your children going through the cycle of life.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean? Yes, it's very, very, very important to show them love and learn to be empathetic and all of these things, and sympathetic and all of the things that you need in order to build a healthy relationship, because I think everyone was supposed to have companions in this world.
Yeah.
You're training your children to love and protect and guide the way that we was raised to, but better versions of. That's my whole thing. Yeah, like, it's a difficult one. I would love to say, yep, I want to be married and all of these things and children in the household and all of these things, but do I think it's compulsory? I'm not there. So, yeah, people saying that having a child outside of wedlock is selfish. Um, there's people in this world who they don't aim to be married in life. They are happy in regards to having a companion, a lifelong companion, and marriage isn't a goal. Does that mean that those people shouldn't procreate and have children or whatever else it is because their goals aren't the same as yours? Do you know what I mean?
I understand.
But I can hear it. I can hear it.
I think there's a difference between the people who have children outside of wedlock. There's kind of two versions of those people. There's people who had the child by accident, and there's people who say, I want to have a child, but I don't want to get married. So it's kind of intentional. And I think knowing that it is ideal, and obviously it makes an assumption that you agree with this, but knowing what a child needs and not necessarily having the most great situation for that child, but still pursuing that. I don't think I'd go as far as to say as it's selfish, but I think the people who do this, they believe that they can provide everything for the child. I don't think anyone would go into having a child knowing that they don't have anything for them.
The funny thing is, I hear it and I get the common sense behind it. But my whole thing is this: it's not until I experienced having my child that I realized I could have had 30 million in my account, the biggest house, all the cars, the best nanny that the world could have provided, and all of these things. I wouldn't have been prepared for that moment when that child hit the world. There's nothing in this world that can prepare you for the love and drive that you have in order to provide and protect your children. You know what I'm saying? So for me, as much as people say, all right, it's an accident or people decided to have a baby, like I said, me being a person of experience, I feel like I would never in my life, not just because I've got beautiful children, but I would never have changed the decision I've made based on being ready, or when people say to me, oh, I'm not having a child yet because I don't think I'm ready yet, I'm not in this position yet, I'm not in that position yet. My children, should I say, have driven me to be a better person, have driven me to go and make sure that I've got these things, have driven me to make sure that not only am I doing this job for them, but I'm becoming a better person for myself now because I have these children. When I had my son, I was 19 going on 20. So I was a child having a child, if we're being real here. But it shaped me. It made me understand the severity of what's been going on in regards to not having my dad around.
Yeah.
The jobs that my mum has done over all of these years and whichever else it is, and has made me really sharpen up and say, do you know what? Me standing up on this street with these lot or going to this party all the time or whatever else it is, there's now somebody who's looking at me and is going to follow my footsteps regardless if I like it or not. It made me change my ways. I wasn't married.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for the person that I've become today based on my experiences. Do you know what I mean? So to say it's completely selfish, no, I do get the energy behind putting yourself in the best financial positions. But nobody is ever emotionally ready. I don't know a woman who knows that or had a child that expected her energy to change the way it did, or a father who's in his child's life, who's had that child and expected his energy to be the way it was before he had that child. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So I get it, but I'm not gonna go and say it's selfish or whichever else it is, because again, some of these people, these children are loving and successful entities of this world. You know what I mean?
And to be honest, I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't say it's selfish. I think it is part of our human nature. And I agree with you on that. You can never really be prepared, even financially, to be honest. Like, I know there's best practice and there's life, and they run simultaneously next to each other. So it doesn't always look like a straight line. I think I was a bit surprised to learn that he does value marriage more than I would have imagined. Perhaps I thought before that it was just like, well, it doesn't really matter at all. But I could see that he does agree with the two-parent home being the ideal situation, but equally acknowledging life is not always ideal. So, but there still is best practice. And I think where I would kind of pivot from what you're saying is what you've described sounds like the good that comes out of a situation, as opposed to well, we can make good from everything, so we can just do anything. And if you look like past generations, even what you're saying about you were able to reckon with the impacts of you not having a dad, or the impacts of your child with not having you and your child's parent or mother together, I think that's a response to an already existing situation, which is where, like, the family unit or the nuclear family unit has been slowly
Deteriorating, you mean?
deteriorating is a bit strong, but the family has become a lot more disparate due to different reasons. Like economically, people don't need to get married for the same economic reasons they did before. I would argue that it does make life a bit easier, depending on how you look at it. But in terms of the need to, as you had that need 50, 100 years ago, it's different. The same thing with even the emotional aspects of marriage. I think society is a lot more independent and self-focused, and so we don't generally value those kind of I just think society has become a lot more self-focused. So there are emotional aspects of marriage that we don't value. So we think that if it's going to be too hard to foster this, I'd rather just be by myself. Which, to be honest, is a fair statement for anybody to make. At the end of the day, no one is going to be in the marriage with you if you're marrying this person. And I even say anyone can, when it comes to who you're going to marry, I think you can be as discriminatory as whatever. I may not like it, I may not disagree with it, I may not agree with it, but the fact of the matter is no one's going to marry this person with you. However, coming back to the, in like having children, there is the non-intentional side, in that we are human and it's kind of our nature to want that. And I don't think I should chastise someone because they want to have children. But I would personally, I wouldn't go out of my way to have a child by myself, knowing that. And I don't think that's the ideal that I would go in with. If I end up like that, I can respond to that situation.
So yeah, it's been very interesting to hear it, or hear a perspective from somebody who hasn't necessarily got children, about what's best for children.
I don't think my impression of Mikhail changed that much through the conversation. I kind of expected the kind of thoughts that he had, and I was able to entertain them because I do see where he's coming from.
I think ideally, everybody who has the dream of having children has the dream of having it with their family unit. I've said this many a time over. I think even when men think about having their children, I don't think they think about having children and being away from the mum, so to speak.
Do men think about having children?
The first time I thought about having children or wanting to be a dad, I was a kid myself, to be honest with you. I thought about, yeah, I want to have kids one day. I want to have a little son that's like me. A lot of men think about, oh, they want to buy them the little football shirt like them so we can do matching football daddy and shirt. And a lot of men think about these things from a very early ages, depending on if they've had their dad or not had their dad.
Okay.
People want these things.
So
men want these things.
Sorry. So what do you think? Because we were talking a lot about whether the marriage is the best situation. Yeah. What do you think are the main reasons why people don't like the idea of marriage?
I don't know if I don't think people don't like the idea of marriage anymore. I think the idea of what comes with commitment seems a lot heavier these days. Just being committed seems like a burden these days to some people because of what seems like people want from relationships. Before, it seemed like traditionally, a man kind of takes care of his home, his woman, whichever else it is, and vice versa, a woman kind of takes care of them. These days, men are looking at it as, all right, cool, if I don't have, you hear these conversations on podcasts all the time, oh, the average man is earning 60,000, this, that, and blah, blah. So men feel pressured to have certain things or to acquire certain things in order to maintain or to acquire a certain level of woman. Some men don't care enough to be busting their brain. I'm a man that, as much as I'm doing okay and whichever else it is, if a woman comes in this room today and says, oh, her man needs to be earning 60,000 or 70,000 or 100, I've switched off from the minute you've walked in, because again, it doesn't sound like love anymore. It sounds like there is a checklist before I can love you. That's what it sounds like to me these days. If he's not earning this, if he doesn't have this, if he doesn't have that, if he's got more than 2 baby mothers, I can't be with a guy like that. So it sounds like don't get me twisted. There's nothing wrong with having your preferences, what you don't want in somebody. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think the checklist has become so financially heavy, or financially orientated, that it's becoming somewhat of a burden. Oh, 100 grand on a wedding plus this and plus this. She needs this. I need to be earning that. So I think a lot of men, so to speak, are somewhat going off of that idea and just be cool with what they call cutting through in life.
Okay. It's interesting you speak a lot about like I feel like what you've just said wasn't even like what was in my mind when I think about the benefits of marriage, which obviously they are a part of it. Like you have to have finance is part of your marriage. Your whole life is intertwined. Yeah. But the reasons that I'm hearing aren't specific to the benefits that I would pull out from a marriage. So I think that's quite an interesting dissonance.
This is the problem. I don't think many people, to be honest with you, look at marriage and see the benefits of being married anymore, to be honest with you. I think people of this day and age kind of just look at it and see it as the ceremony. Okay, yeah, that's my husband, that's my wife.
Yeah.
And the actual details of marriage isn't something that's really looked at anymore, to be honest with you. Me personally, as much as I would love to be married, I was having this conversation just the other day and I was saying that the level of devotion for a man doesn't change. Once he's committed, let's say, for example, you've got a boyfriend, so to speak, and he's doing his job as a boyfriend and he's taking care of you, providing, protecting, whichever else it is, whether you've got a home, wherever it may be, his level of devotion doesn't change because his job description doesn't change once he's become married. He still has to do the exact same things, love on you the way that he did, protect you the way that he did, provide, and whichever else it was. That it doesn't change in any capacity. So I think the whole idea of it, so to speak, is nice.
So you're saying that the marriage, the actual wedding, doesn't change the role that you play in that person's life?
Not at all.
I think that marriage is, at the end of the day, it comes from a moral decision. For me to argue with someone and say you should get married because X, Y, and Z, it only means anything if we share the same value system. Because, like we've discussed, there's marriage in we have the wedding, we have our finances, we do life together. But from my perspective and from what I believe, marriage is it's about relationship. It's about building relationship. It's about learning relationship. It's about exposure of yourself. And because society has a different different attitude and approach towards those kinds of things now, it's not as valued. And I can't really argue with someone's value. I can argue statistically from the point of the benefit to a child. But in terms of, oh, we need a piece of paper, I mean, I wouldn't even say you need a piece of paper, but I do think that there is a commitment and there's a covenant in marriage that you don't get from just being in a relationship. Otherwise, I can just be in a relationship. I would agree with people who would say that.
People have their energies in regards to religion and what they believe is right. Religion and reality sometimes they can either blend really well together or they can drift. And marriage is one of these things where people, depending on your level of importance to or how important you see religion, will determine the outcome of the situation, to be honest with you. So, like I said, it's interesting, but yeah.
I think the fact that so many children have come from broken homes and made it has really warped our perspective of interaction and relationship with people. And to the point where now, and I would say this has always been happening, but to the point where now it's like a war of the sexes. Like men don't like women, women don't like men, women don't like women who like men. Like I think it's a breakdown that's seeping into all the different things that we do in life. And this war of the sexes has gone into every aspect of life. And there's now a notion, well, I think it is this kind of independence type culture. Well, I don't need anyone. I don't need family. I don't need a husband. I don't need a wife. I can do everything. But why would I want to do that? Like, that's not how, I don't think that's our innate nature. And you'll find as well, a lot of people who do have this belief and rhetoric, if you talk to them for 10 minutes, you'll see where the flaws in those ideals come from. And where the flaws in those ideals stem from. And I think it's because more of a lack of hope in other people. It's natural to go through these adversities and want to protect yourself and shield yourself and say, well, I would rather be by myself and deal with the devil that I know than try to. But I honestly think even in failed relationships, like there is a benefit to, okay, I tried this, it didn't work with this person, I've grown from it, but that doesn't mean I need to punish the next person for what has happened. And it does build growth and it does build character. But we need each other. Like in society, we need each other. That's why I'm an architect and not a lawyer. Like I can't do everything. And life is better when we do everything. And that's obviously a very idealistic notion, but yeah.
For me, like I said, I think showing children or showing people, not just children, but showing people that this world isn't perfect by our experiences, it is not the best example. You know what I'm saying? That you want your child to see broken homes and all of these kind of things, but you need to show children that not everything that you plan will always work. Are you able to fix certain situations and get the best out of some of these situations that have been broken, so to speak, or didn't go according to plan? Yes, you are, to be honest with you. So it's not that you're setting a great example, but you are educating by taking your children with you through these situations, if you see what I'm saying. And when I say taking them with you, I don't mean dragging them through the hardships and making them see mum and dad cussing or whichever else it is, but just in regards to this world isn't perfect. Nothing you're going to do in this world is going to be just easy. Especially if you aim to be successful in any capacity, it's not going to be just easy. We've got you and we're happy and we love you and we show you that you've got these nice things or whichever else it is. But there was times when mum and dad weren't at the best of, hence why we're not in a relationship now. But if you look at your life and look at the world, mum runs for dad, dad runs for mum, whichever else it is, and we're there as a family unit, regardless if I push my key in the door at the end of the evening or not. His dad is there, his mum is there. So yeah, I think it's still a great example to an extent.
If I can add to that as well, even in a best scenario in a marriage, like it doesn't always work out. It's not always perfect. And I definitely am not an advocate for staying in a marriage for 30, 40 years for the sake of the children, because it could be just as detrimental. And even the fact that you've been able to recognize, okay, like we don't work that great as a pair, but in terms of raising you, we're able to do that. That also sets an example for your child.
Yeah.
So yeah.
In regards to people staying together for the sake of the child, definitely not an advocate for that one, to be honest with you. If you are in the early stages and there's still love between the two people and you believe that you genuinely love each other and your goals are the same and you may be having a bit of a rough patch and you believe it can work, try for the sake of you, not for the sake of the child. Try for the sake of you. I've never seen it work, to be honest with you. If two people have started to lose respect for each other and start to lose love for each other, that child won't be enough to bring those two people back together if it's past. Do you know what I mean? So in regards to just staying together for the sake of the child, short and sweet, I'm not an advocate for that one.
Yeah. Can I ask you something?
Yeah, go ahead.
You don't have to tell me your experiences, but what do you think about parents who have officially broken up, but they're kind of in and out of each other's life and there's kind of like a blurred line with that child present?
It's something I've been through as well. As a younger person, for me, should I say, in my experience, I feel like it's trying to detach and having a level of control in the same breath.
Okay.
Yeah. So just to explain it a little bit more. So you may have decided in your mind that this isn't necessarily going to work, but you're trying for the sake of the child or whichever. Ever so often you believed, you know what, maybe, or you're working with the hope, because again, like I said, everybody walks in with the picture that this is what it's like, this is what I want. So sometimes the picture could be a little tainted, someone could spill a little something on your painting, and you find a way to try and rub it or fix it or whichever else it is. Blend it in, do you know what I mean? And then something else happens and then someone's put a paint splash on the face of the person he was standing next to. Now, depending on how detrimental that paint splash was, you may have to draw a new face into that picture. Do you see what I'm saying to you? There's only so much smudging and rubbing you can do before it's totally damaged. And then you step back and look at your picture, which is your life, and you think to yourself, right, that's what I've let happen. Because let me tell you something, the only person who has control or has a paintbrush is you for your picture. No matter who comes in or whichever else it is, if somebody comes into your world and stays there, it's because you took your brush and added that person to that canvas. You are in control of it, so to speak. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's difficult, but yeah.
I think it was a really good conversation. It was definitely quite
interesting talking to her today, and I always find it
nuanced, and I think I was also able to dispel maybe assumptions that you might make about someone that holds my stance.
Find it intriguing talking to younger people and finding out their perspectives on what goes on, or how things should work in the world, to be honest with you.
Because it's not just military, you have to be married. Like, there is a conversation to be had, and it was a good one.
Hey, thank you for taking time to watch that video. Here at the Common Sense Network, we thrive on exposing you to different ideas. If you're someone who likes ideas, you like learning new things, hit the subscribe button now and turn on notifications so you're first to hear when we have a new video out.